Justice, where are you? Michael and Linda are here.
Love you, Linda.
The world is justice. Will we ever find justice?
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing
Will
"Oh
we
Happy
know
Day."
justice when we see it? To be and Damila lead the way, hoping justice will win the day. Listener clues, finding justice where we can. Join us now, we're on the run. Justice is waiting, we'll see it done.
I have to add myself to the stage because I wanted you to all to see my co-host. First, Amanda, Law Girls Not Attorneys, is joining us. She is replacing, well, I shouldn't say replacing. She's supplementing Michael Bryant, who is on assignment all of this week. And I know he's missing out because I just spoke to him about an hour ago from where he is overseas. He wishes he were here because this show is about two things tonight. Guthrie, still missing, and of course, Kelsey Fitzsimmons. And you all know that we have a lot of activity of Kelsey Fitzsimmons, a judge you all love to hate. And what she has been up to behind the, shall we say, the hidden camera. I shouldn't say hidden camera. Hiding behind her robes, I guess, would be what's going on. But first, we do have a couple of rip and reads. All right. Now, you all know that we've talked about this. We actually ran the hearing, the probable cause hearing. I'm going to add this to the stage if you can. You'll be able to see it in a second. Okay, there we go. Well, you kind of can't see it, okay? But that really is, if you look at it a little bigger, I don't know if I can make it bigger here. This is why we miss our Michael Bryant. This is actually a New York Times article, Timothy Busfield. All right, I wanted to show the whole thing because, and you don't really need to read it in the sense of, you know, that New Mexico, who normally doesn't use grand juries, has just indicted him on the charges that we had the hearing for, the probable cause hearing. Now, this is a very interesting case. Mr. Busfield, as you know, he's a longtime actor and director. He is married to a famous actor, I should say. We don't call them actresses anymore. And Melissa Gilbert. And when Mr. Busfield was on the set of The Cleaning Lady, a Fox crime drama that he started directing, it was filmed in New Mexico in 2022. There have been accusations that he was sexually inappropriate with two young boys. All right. And he has been indicted on those charges. The reason why I'm interested in the case is actually twofold. One, because we watched the probable cause hearing, and it was very interesting. I mean, I think the prosecution is going to have trouble with it. And two, because Busfield and his wife Melissa Gilbert live in a town where I am close to in Sullivan County, New York, where my husband and I have a small cabin. All right, and they're very well known in the community. I've never met them, but they're appreciated in the community for many years. So this comes as quite a surprise and a shock, and they have a lot of support. Now, it's a very interesting case. We're going to stay with it, but we're not going to talk much more about it tonight because there's one other more rip and read that really is, shall we say, inside baseball. And that is, it's announced today that the parent company of Law and Crime, where Michael Bryant and I used to host once a week, has acquired Court TV. Yes, Scripps, who own Court TV, has sold the parent company, has sold it to our parent company, our old parent company, Outlaw and Crime, because they feel that apparently Court TV is not in the social media world enough. And let me tell you, if there's one thing that the Jelly Smack company can do is put a company into the social media world. We wish them all the best, but what a coup for Dan Abrams, who I remember years ago said streaming and over the top was where it was going to be. And he certainly was right. So congratulations to him, to Kathy Russon, who really was the person that Dan Abrams bought. And hopefully it'll make the law and crime community and the justice community a lot greater, a lot more accepted, and a lot more out there. So with that, why don't we go to the things that we want to talk about? And one of them, as you know, has to do with this. Now, what is this? This is the home, Amanda, of
Nancy Guthrie, right?
Yeah, Nancy Guthrie. And by the way, before I go into something that's really terrible with regard to this, and we play these videos, I just want to tell you all that Amanda is doing this, co-hosting the day before her birthday. So this is her birthday present. This is Justice Serve TV's birthday present to you, Amanda. Thank you for hosting with me. And I know it's your birthday, kind of an early birthday present to me. So appreciate it a lot. So I want to get your thoughts about this, Amanda, before we talk about the new video and the fact that the deadline is about to occur in about an hour in Colorado for the ransom. So as I show the house, and I also add to the stage the location of where where she lived, and you just see that the mountains are to the side. The only way really to go is really kind of left or south. So what are your thoughts about this case before we even get into what's happened today?
You know, it's so heartbreaking. 84 years old, and I think of my mom, who's not quite 84. She's, late 70s, and my father, same thing, late 70s. And being out where they are. I was watching the other night on social media. There was somebody parked outside there that was reporting from there, and he remarked on the coyotes, how loud the coyotes were, and the fact that we don't have proof of life right now. And there's no answers that we really have. We have these ransom letters that we don't know if they're genuine ransom letters. So what do we have here? They were looking at maybe the family, the sister, Annie. They were at her house a few times. We've seen them out back looking at like the septic system. It's just terrifying. And to watch Savannah Guthrie, we all know her as this bright, cheery, for the most part person, and she just looks exhausted. And I just put myself in her shoes, and we know she must not be sleeping. Her poor mother, like, how heartbreaking.
Yeah, I can't imagine the pain that they are going through right now. And I'm going to actually remove the two photographs from the stage for a second. And let's see if we can bring in, there was obviously her family had a statement on the other day talking about the ready to pay. And then she just released another one on Instagram. So why don't we see if we can look at those statements. So hold on a second. I want to share the screen here.
Boy, you're getting good at this, Linda, really.
I don't know about that. We'll see about that. Let's go. Can you see that? Can everyone see that, or is not? I haven't added it to the stage yet.
Nope, not yet.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Okay.
There we go.
Now we're going to try to play it so that you can all hear it. Okay. All right.
We feel them. And we continue to believe that she feels them too. Our mom is a kind, faithful, loyal, fiercely loving woman of goodness and light. She is funny, spunky, and clever. She has grandchildren that adore her and crowd around her and cover her with kisses. She loves fun and adventure. She is a devoted friend. She is full of kindness and knowledge. Talk to her and you'll see.
I'm going to leave it right there at that. Okay. Let's see. Let's get this off the stage now. Hold on a second, everybody. This is where we miss Michael Bryant, okay? Because he's so good at that. And the reason why I wanted to play number one, because we all heard number two, which says that they're going to pay the ransom. That was from the other day, and it was due at 5 o'clock tonight, Colorado time, we assume, which would be about an hour from now, 51 minutes from now, right? And all. So we know about that, and that was just painful. But then, just before we came on the air, there is another statement. There was another statement that Savannah released on her Instagram account. And we're going to, I'd rather than go to number two, I want to play this one if we can. Hold on. And we're going to add this to the screen. Oh, That didn't work out so well. Okay, hold on a second, everybody. We'll get this right. And if we don't get this right, we'll go back out. We'll start talking about this. And then we will obviously come back and play it, which I may have to do. All right, because for some reason, I seem to have lost that. I've lost that. What do you know about that? I can share me, but I don't think any of you want to see me. All right, I'll go back out and find that statement. I'm going to stop sharing that. Let's see if we can do another share screen because we have another window.
I want to say, Linda, I love hearing Savannah and her comments, and you hear this over time about, if somebody's been kidnapped, you want to connect with, you want to humanize the person. Our mother is, loving, she's funny, she's got grandchildren that smother her in kisses to, make their captor sympathize and see them as a person and not an object. So
I understand that. It's just I don't understand what's going on here with regard to this last statement. Let me see. I can pull this in right now. I'm trying to share the screen right now. All right, hold on a second. There we go. Let me pull this in. I'm going to add this to the screen. Okay, and we'll see if you can hear it when I.
you may just need to turn up the volume on your player, like on your computer.
Can you hear that at all?
No. I can hear like a little tiny bit.
There is no audio. Okay. We've had this problem. All right, and my computer is up. So we had, my computer is up. I think what we may have to do without my trusty partner here, but you all kind of heard that, is if you all take your iPhones and you all have them there, I mean, and you listen to them, right? It's horrible. What she's saying basically is that her mom is out there, law enforcement's worked tirelessly, but I need your help, is what she said. Yeah, the audio was there. It was just very low, Scott. I know. And I don't have a booster here. And I think Missy is with food poisoning today. So the booster that she normally controls wasn't available for me. So you're going to have to just bear with me. And I think looking at her face, and of course, if you all took your iPhones right now or your phones and you listen to her, I want to get your impression about, she's asking for help now. All right. Now, I think that I don't understand what's going on, because before it was like law enforcement was stay out of the way, you're interfering, not from them, not from the Guthries. Now, we have the chief of police at the NCAA basketball game. And we know that the cops and the FBI who came in, finally put crime scene around the tape, around the house. They've been in the house. They've done voluntary searches. They've done search warrant searches of different houses. And they are going to the gas station. They're going to, I think it was Circle K. But what is going on here? What is going on here? The TMZ is reporting that even though it's now an hour and 45 minutes from when the ransom, which the Guthrie said they were going to pay, should be dropped into the Bitcoin account, you can see if a Bitcoin account has money in it. You don't know who it belongs to, but you can see if Bitcoin account has money in it. So if any of you see anything new coming up on the Guthries, we don't see anything. And we're at a loss too, because now we're not out there. There was some report today that they're looking for her necklace, which may have been dropped outside the house, but when they went back to look for it, it was gone. I don't know if that's a true report or not. Have you seen anything like that, Amanda?
I haven't seen anything, no. And I've heard people online talking about, like, they wish that law enforcement would give us more. Like, we'd love to help. What kind of nightgown might she be wearing? Does she wear a nightgown? Does she wear pajamas? What might have been her actions around that time that could clue us in on something, so that people can help, because people want to help. They're feeling this heartache for that family, and they want to help, but we need some information to be able to do that.
Yeah. Now, I see Scott McGinnis has been in the chat. He's been in law enforcement. He's been in law enforcement. Scott, we'd like to have some of your, Sheila says she thinks the necklace thing was clickbait. I think it may have been too. That's why I said it's out there, but I don't pay any heed to it because there's so much out there. But Scott, I'd like to have Scott's viewpoint about, if he's still around, what's going on, what's happening here, because any of you, what do you feel? I see that some of you feel that she's no longer around, but why would the Savannah be releasing this statement? Did the police know about this statement? Did the FBI write this statement? Now asking for all of our help. As I said, originally there were articles that yes, Scott, that Savannah Guthrie is her daughter. Yes, there were articles that that online sleuths were making this a lot more difficult. But it sounds like that's all that's left is online sleuths, unless they're trying to divert attention. Your thoughts, Amanda?
I think it's frustrating to hear this, that online sleuths are, causing, delays or problems. And then you come and say, oh, we need your help. It's like, the people who get online and who do help, look how it helped out. Scott McGinnis knows with Karen's case, how many tips we were able to provide to the defense, and people want to help. So to feel like, maybe you're an inconvenience in one moment and it shies you away from calling in a tip that you may otherwise, and then to have it now, you need our help. You want people's help. It's frustrating. It is.
Yeah. And yet they haven't released anything. The sheriff said he wasn't going to release anything more than he released the other day. So we don't know if there was blood in the house. They were trying to hold that tight, whether it was just blood outside. And then I was thinking, blood outside the iron front door. Does that mean that she was taken outside the iron front door? Does that mean that she was carried from the back? I mean, what does that mean, those blood drops? Because they look like they're from a nosebleed, or they don't look like they're spatter from being hit by something, and everything goes in all different directions. They look like they're straight perpendicular drops down to the ground. So I just don't know. I mean, what do you think about whether the ransom notes, all of you, are they related to the kidnapping?
I think, people are saying online that it can be spoofed. We see that one person has already been arrested and is facing federal charges because, it was a fake ransom. So there was one person arrested for that. And I think that there's other copycats as well. And can Bitcoin be, traced over what? I mean,
I know somebody says Bitcoin can be traced, but I think that you can move Bitcoin fast enough that maybe it won't be traced. And then where do you get it though? Where do you get it? Where do you get this? There was somebody said, well, they asked for US dollars, which means they weren't American. What thoughts about something like that? I mean, all this stuff is floating around for all of us. So how do we help?
I think there's no way to make sense of it either. Like, maybe they would want to say, we want US dollars because to throw us off, to throw people off and say, oh, well, narrow it down. It's going to be in the United States but that doesn't necessarily mean anything, does it?
Doesn't mean anything. And we know that we had Mike Easter on. He talked to us how the phone records, the phone towers could help. And see if you see any phone numbers related to her phone to service providers or anybody, or any phone numbers that are new in that area. Or we have a very limited 47 minutes that there are 48 minutes in the house, if indeed they were carrying anything, or or they drove in. Whoever took her didn't, as I keep saying, didn't parachute in. There has to be some kind of footprint, and I don't mean a visual footprint, a footprint somewhere from whoever took her. Now, did she get put on an ATV and taken to a car outside of the community? We don't know, right? We know nothing.
Did she Uber back home? I know she Ubered to her daughter and son-in-laws. Did she Uber back home, or did they drop her off? Have they said that?
She was dropped off by one report says by both the daughter and the son-in-law. One report says the son-in-law. One report says the daughter. So I don't know, but she was dropped back home, and they have the time where the garage door opened and the time where the garage door closed. Which those of you who have a garage know that's a lot of times that's when you come in, right? You know, when I had a garage, that's how I come in. I open the garage door, go in the garage, and go in through the kitchen or wherever it led, and you close those. So after you're in, after you're in the garage. So, what the heck? Are they looking for any type of DNA that may be the same DNA but foreign DNA on her car? Maybe there's a thought that the kidnappers touched her car. They were waiting in the garage. Maybe there's a thought that the kidnappers touched others' cars that they were following. Who the heck? I don't know what the theories are. So if no wonder Savannah needs help, and she knows more than we do, right?
And how did they get her out of the house? Did they have, does she have a walker? Is she, did they pick her up and carry her? It's terrifying. Yeah, it's really terrifying.
It is terrifying. It's terrifying. And, there's this case went from the Guthries asking for proof of life in the first time they spoke, but then by Friday, they were like, we're going to pay the ransom. We hear you, right? We hear you. We just want our mother back, to celebrate. So no proof of life either then, no proof of life when Cameron then had his little video that was just at the time of the 5 o'clock on Friday. And this one with Savannah doesn't say anything about proof of life. Just says, I know she's out there. We need your help. We need your help. It seems to me that if you had a huge enough reward for somebody who's close to them, who would turn on them for the huge reward, and you offer, some type of immunity or something like that, that maybe, somebody would come forward. Somebody has to know the people that, or the person that has her and what this is. Somebody, right?
I think the latest was $6 million was what I just heard was the request for, the ransom for 6 million in Bitcoin. And I want to say also that, we think that there's not been proof of life. However, the kidnapper is controlling the narrative here, right? So who knows if there has not been proof of life? Who knows if they have the kidnapper has sent it and said, your communication with me will be XYZ. I don't want you to talk about, these pictures I said. Who knows? This person's obviously, not in their right mind to have done this. Right. So I don't want to, I'm trying not to read too much into that and saying, who knows? We don't know.
And we don't know whether or not the kidnappers wanted Savannah to say certain code words for understanding and all. We have nothing. We the public we want to help, okay? But we don't know what we're helping with, except if you had a sighting of the mom, or I gather, if you know somebody who may have done this, right? Because this clearly, to me, was some kind of inside job. They knew that she was living alone. They knew, in my opinion, they had to know that she was the mother of a famous daughter. They knew when she was that she mostly is home alone. They knew that she probably had a heart condition. She wouldn't fight back. They had to know that. They had to know the layout, it seems to me, of the house, whatever, right? Somehow somebody had to know her. And whether it's an inside job actually from the inside or somebody who tells somebody about this, right? It's the 6 million Bitcoin is also interesting because Bitcoin keeps going down daily, right? The other day it was worth a lot more than it was now. So what if you give 4.5 million in Bitcoin now because it was worth 6 million on Friday? Are you complying with demand? And by the way, when do you where is mom? How do we get it back? What is the communication channels? Thoughts?
Is the kidnapper watching the stock market?
Yeah, it's the whole thing. The whole thing is odd. I mean, we come from the state of New Jersey, where the biggest kidnapping in history was the Lindbergh baby boy, because Lindbergh had flown. He was a hero. Turned out not to be so much, as we learn more about him. But his child was taken from his house, right under his ears, eyes, with a ladder. And there's rumors to this day that it was an inside job, that he wanted the child killed because the child wasn't perfect, and he turned out to be a Nazi who believed in the perfect being, and turned out that he had family in Germany and was a Nazi sympathizer and Hitler sympathizer. So sometimes people aren't what they see. But geez. Okay, what is this? She was dropped off 2 minutes to close a driveway. Are you saying that she's dropped off? She's been dropped off and this case is solved? Liz LaPara, or what? Okay. Can you tell us? Because I don't see anything here that says that this case is solved. Brian Enton. If you're not following Brian Enton or Mike Ruiz of Fox Reports, they're there, right? So I don't see anything that she's been dropped off. Okay. Yes, Savannah interviewed Epstein survivors, but the question is, if you're taking somebody, don't you want money? And that's what this seems to indicate. This is money, right? Okay. This is money. Now, there's been some theories that this was actually just a regular robbery, regular home invasion that went bad. Okay. So that somehow this went awry, that she wasn't supposed to get hurt, and maybe she's been hurt. And then again, maybe she's all alive. I mean, her medicines that she appears to be on appear to be blood thinners and all. And they can kidnappers could probably get those in the black market, or from somebody who has them otherwise, or steal them. So I'm not sure what kind of medicines that were life threatening, unless it was insulin, but they didn't say. No one said, because the sheriff said he couldn't. This was the best one. He had to be careful about HIPAA, about her medical condition. Well, it seems to me that if you're looking for somebody who needs to get medicines illegally to keep a kidnappee alive, that maybe you'd want to tell us what the medicines are you're looking for.
She's not going to be returned home and say, you violated my HIPAA, you violated HIPAA when you were searching for me.
Right. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. Okay. Yeah, right. And Michael Bryant points out the great thing he said was like, your guess is as good as mine. All right. Well, we're trying to guess now, and we're all trying to help Savannah and all. So we do hope that this ends okay. And we do know that at the end of our show, the deadline for the delivery of the money, the $6 million, if that is indeed the actual ransom, will have reached his deadline, and then probably something else will happen. And then we'll be talking about that on our show tomorrow night, which, by the way, if that happens, that'll be the beginning of the show. The second part of the show will be devoted to Andrew Goldman and his podcast on Michael Skakel, the Martha Moxley murder. As you know, Michael's my client. And it's been #1 for the last 14 weeks, 1 or 2 on Apple Podcasts, called Dead Certain. If you haven't taken a look at it, take a look at it, and all, because we're going to be talking about some inside baseball, shall we say, on this podcast. And Michael's been, his conviction was overturned, and the amount of suspects that Andrew has uncovered has just been unbelievable. So hopefully we'll be talking about her being delivered alive home tomorrow night, but if not, we will have that podcast on with Andrew Goldman. Please be sure to come watch with me. All right. Now, why don't we switch for a little bit right now, since we don't know what's happening. And all of you, I know, will keep an eye on X for me. Keep an eye on Mike Ruiz. Ruiz reports. He's at Ruiz Reports, and Brian Etten, who let us know if something happens.
Yeah, he was the one I was watching that said about the coyotes. I just didn't want to name drop.
No, that's okay. No, he did. I know. I said, yeah, it was because if you ever been out there, if you're ever in a place that has coyotes at night, it's a scary, scary, scary noise, and especially when they start crying, and all. It's just, we always have to watch Tubi. Oh, I'm going to throw a little, shall we say, ice cream here into this, and it's really not ice cream. I just want to show you that we love all of our viewers, right? But and we all know, you all know that on our viewers that we have our dogs. There's Tubi, and he's definitely our one of our mascots, along with Domino. Okay, Tubi and Domino, and Tubi. Sometimes when I'm here in my office, will bark and all. And I've gotten 3 complaints in the last, month from people. But I do want to show you one, all right? Because we do take complaints here. We do want you to talk. But we also would like you to talk about things that are important, that we think are really, shall we say, I don't know, like about what we're talking about, maybe, about things that are about crime. So this is a public comment, so I have no problem adding it to the stage. Linda, you have an untrained nuisance dog. Spend some money and get your dog trained. Okay. Now, you can imagine that Michael and I do not take kindly to the attack on our dogs. Okay. There's Tubi. We'll take them off. So I did want to advise everybody that Tubi is hardly a nuisance. And the reason why I'm doing it here is because perhaps, Tubi is like a security system that you would have if you lived alone in the country. And I wanted to let everyone know that Tubi is highly trained. He's been highly trained by a trainer who trains police dogs, right? And so he will bark to alert me of danger, or what he perceives danger. And if you come near me, and he perceives you as danger, which I would certainly give him a command to do if you were attacking me, then you may not want to think Tubi was a nuisance. So perhaps before you make these comments, you should think not only about the fact that the comments will not be they will be responded to, but not in necessarily a good way, especially when you're talking about our families, which are off limits, and our animals, which are off limits. But the fact that we're talking about this case, where perhaps if you had a security trained dog, we wouldn't be standing here talking about Mrs. Guthrie. All right. So you can see that my answer, it'll be up here for you to go back to should you wish to. So please comment about everything that's important. If you have constructive criticism, comment, but think about the comment you're making, especially when we're talking about the case that you're making. All right. So Tubi's not a nuisance. I choose not to have security like Secret Service follow me around, but I think I have something better in Tubi. All right. So there you go.
Is Tubi a poodle?
Yeah, people think because he's a standard poodle that he's all fluff, and poodles are big, strong hunting dogs. And as a matter of fact, his trainer said the best security dog he ever had that he trained was a standard poodle. People don't realize that because, you think of what Madison Square Garden and Westminster Kennel Show, where they come around all fluffy with all sorts of different things, but they're not bred for that. They're bred to be big, strong hunting dogs. They go out and they go grabbing the game, and they're in the woods, and they're with, all the animals. So just because he looks sweet, because he's my dog, and I do, I'm into hair and looks and clothes, as you know, does not mean that he does not serve a very important purpose. And so please keep your comments to the cases, and not to attacking either our guests, our family, or our dogs. All right.
Now, can I ask you a question about Tubi?
Sure.
Would you say that Mycroft from Remain Silent looks like Tubi? Because I just got to the part in the book where Manny runs up to the apartment and grabs her, her Mycroft and her bag and drops it in the doctor's lap because they're going to go drive off for an autopsy. So now I'm going to
Mycroft, right? Yeah, Mycroft was our first dog. We Michael and I had 3 dogs: Mycroft, Valjean, and then Tubi. Mycroft was actually a toy poodle, but Mycroft went everywhere with me. And all. And previously, I had German Shepherds, but it's very hard to keep a German Shepherd in New York City. Whereas you train them, people are petrified of them. People aren't petrified if I'm walking down the street of Tubi. They should be, but they aren't. Okay, and the best trained security dogs are ones that will never hurt anyone. My German Shepherds who were trained in Czechoslovakia were incredibly highly trained, but they'd go play with the kids in the playground because a really highly trained security dog will only be a security dog upon command. That's all. It's simple as that. So anyhow, yes, but Mycroft was with us, and the book was written because of Mycroft. That the agent saw Mycroft and said, "You have to write a book about Mycroft and your relationship." So Mycroft, Valjean, and Tubi.
We're enjoying it. We're listening to Josie and I are listening to the audio version of it, and I just think of you when I'm, hearing about Manny and how she's dressed and, her hair, and I'm really enjoying it.
I appreciate that. What Amanda's talking about is my husband and I have written 2. I don't know if I have them back here. Yes, I actually do. They're behind me. We have Remain Silent and Skeleton Justice. And then I ran out of time to write number 3. 135 pages, been sitting on my computer for 10 years. And they're basically inspired by our lives and our cases, but and of course our animals. So the next one really has to have Tubi put back into it, because we have one with Mycroft, we have one with Valjean, and now we have Tubi. Tubi goes by, for all of you don't know, to be or not to be in Shakespeare. Mycroft was Sherlock Holmes's older, smarter brother. Valjean, of course, wrongfully convicted in Les Miserables. And then, of course, Tubi is the mental health aspect that's so important in these days from the Shakespeare's famous Hamlet soliloquy. So now there's a theme to naming our dogs. So now that we've gone through shush and be quiet. Now that we've gone through Rip and Read, and we've talked about Mrs. Guthrie, let's talk about the case of the day. Now, I don't know if I can do this, man. I haven't been really that successful of getting these things in, but you and your daughter actually streamed, Josie, who you've mentioned, actually streamed the compliance hearing. Let me see if I can also share tab audio, which I'm doing. Let me see if we can hear this. This was very low to begin with. Okay, I have a cue.
Because I was missing Michael Bryant, who comes in with his mic, and we work as a team. And I really missed him today. And the family did ask, is Michael away on vacation, or so I explained to them and said I would be joining you tonight. And
that's great. That's great that you went there. Now, what this is this, by the way, is not the judge we all love to hate. Okay. This is a different judge whose hearing basically is a status discovery hearing as to where the case is. And so it's going to be a little low, and you're going to have Tim Bradle here, and it's going to, like, you blink your eyes, right? It's going to go fast, right?
And before this happened, I don't know, I hate to, sorry to interject there.
No, that's okay.
I had messaged you before the hearing to let you know we were going to be a little bit behind. Because right before Kelsey's case was called, there were a few other cases first, and the defendant he was coming off of an ankle monitor. He was, being given back his bail money. It was a good day in all respects, as far as I could tell. And he, like a ton of bricks, dropped to the ground at the podium, just dropped to the ground. And it was terrifying. Everybody rushed in. At one point, I don't think he was breathing. Court staff went and got like a red bag defibrillator. And so it extended it by, some time. And I felt horrible for Kelsey as well, because she's a first responder. So to know that that's going on right before her hearing, was Yeah.
And
And
was she in court? Was she in court?
she was in court, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
It's hard. Mr. Breda was in court, and I think Martha Coakley was there, right?
Yes, yes.
Right. And then the prosecutor. Let's see if we can hear a little bit about this. It's going to go fast. Let me see if I can get it to the stage.
Certificate of compliance today. There is, before I realized that there may be one outstanding issue with respect to discovery, I'm happy to remedy that today or this week as soon as possible. It's just a matter of being some surveillance on the area. And then discovery is complete. We have a final pretrial date of March 12th and a trial date of March 3rd.
So with respect to discovery counsel, are we doing discovery?
I appreciate the optimism of a final client. We're not quite there yet. I have been talking to co-counsel Vigorous on the case about some ballistics issues as well. But I'll send out an email to both counsel about a couple of outstanding things. We did file a motion to recuse Judge Guthrie in the case. And I talked to Madam Clerk along with co-counsel here for Commonwealth about a date early March. I don't know whether the judge can grant the evidentiary hearing yet or what he wants to do, but we're anticipating the next date would be March. I believe you said March 2nd. I'm sorry, no, March 9th. For that.
Okay, so we're on for March 9th for further compliance and also at least a preliminary hearing on the motion for refusal. Very good. So, Commonwealth?
Yes.
All right, so March 9th will be the next date and see what we gets done in that day. Very good, thank you. Anything else we can do today? I think that's it. All right, so we'll see you on the 9th.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, let me remove that from the stage. That was actually it. I'm going to close that down. If you blinked, I said you would miss it. Okay, so it said March 9th for the next discovery hearing. That was the prosecutor who said they have issued a certificate of compliance that they're ready for trial. And Tim Bradle said, oh, no. There's a lot of discovery issues still outstanding. But the most important thing he mentioned was this little word about filing a motion for recusal, which we have, and we're going to show you. But before we bring that up on the screen, Amanda, tell us about it.
So I will mention first that, Attorney Gubitosi was not there for the prosecution, was not in the courtroom. The other prosecutor was there. So we thought that he wasn't in the building. However, when we were walking out, Josie says, hey, there's Attorney Gubitosi right there. So it was like, was she offered up, why was he not in that courtroom? And I know there, we'll hear cases in different courtrooms and necessarily didn't need both of them. But to have that, here's the certificate of compliance, but it's not really been complied with, I kind of wondered about him, not being in the courtroom, but he was in the building.
Well, that's exciting. He was in the building. Maybe can you tell me? And yes, Scott McGinnis, the paperwork's been filed. We're going to put it up on the screen in a second. Can you tell me this? The Judge McCarthy Naaman, who's this recusal is seeking to take off the bench for this case, and the reasons are unbelievable. Okay, all right. She wasn't hearing this. Why didn't she hear this?
No reason was given. We didn't know that she wasn't going to be hearing it until we were, in the courtroom. And in fact, when that defendant was on before and he, passed out, I thought maybe this man is going to walk off the bench and then McCarthy Naaman's in the back. And, I don't know how things go. Are they going to swap off? And, so no indication that she was not going to be there. So it was a surprise to all of us.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Maybe she's on assignment, and maybe she's on assignment where Michael Bryant is, and he can run into her. But that was a really quick hearing. I know they gave a press conference after, but I really want to get to this motion because the things that were revealed in this motion, I'm wondering whether the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts now feels duped And remember, in any recusal motion that you make before a judge, usually it goes to the judge that you seek to be recused. There's certain circumstances that you can send to what would be the assignment judge or the top judge in a county, but that's not how most states work, and it's not how Massachusetts work. So that this motion for recusal that Mr. Bradel filed on behalf of Kelsey Fitzsimmons will be decided by Judge McCarthy and Naaman herself, unless she decides to voluntarily take herself off the case and not have an evidentiary hearing, which is what they're asking for. So why don't we take a look a little bit at this motion? Now, I have loaded this up. It's in slides and PDFs. I just want to let you know, because there's different ways to load. So we're going to look at this recusal motion. We're going to add this to the stage. That's the exhibits. All right. The exhibits, by the way, are just the exhibits are. I'm not, when we mention them, they're her assignments, right? And so when you look at this, there's really not much. You're not really missing much in the exhibits and the rule of court. All right. So those exhibits are not exactly, things that are helpful to us, or wow. The real wow comes from the absolute the motion itself. Okay. Recusal
And when
motion.
I looked at the exhibits there, I thought, because it looks like a calendar, and I was not paying attention to the date. I just looked at it really quickly, and I thought it was, if you recuse yourself, here are some other judges to choose from. Like here's a long this one, and one of them that was highlighted was Beverly Cannoni, and I said, oh my goodness. Interesting.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the motion itself now. Here I have several up here. Let me see, recusal final.
And one
There we
person
go.
that we did see there
There we
as
go.
well, you would have missed him. I may go back and look to see if I can zero in on him, but Mr. January was at this hearing today as well.
And why that's important is because this motion is all about Mr. January. Now, you know who Mr. January is. When I was speaking to Michael Bryant before we went on the air, who's, as I said, overseas, he said Mr. January is the snowplow driver of the Karen Reed case, meaning that he's the honest citizen in this. And we all said that when he testified, right? And then when and his testimony was quoted by the Supreme Judicial Court when they decided to upheld Judge McCarthy and Naaman. But maybe they were duped, because there's some things about Ms. McCarthy Naaman, a judge, that we didn't know about. So let's look at it. Now comes the defendant, Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Okay. As grounds that is reasonably disinterested in Zero. I'm sorry, let me start that. As grounds, they want her removed. It is apparent that a reasonable disinterested observer, being apprised of the facts of the judge's involvement in this case, would conclude there is a lack of impartiality, or at the bare minimum, an appearance that the judge's impartiality might be questioned. So, why is that? Well, we know that you have a right to have a fair trial. And then Timothy Bradel goes into all the reasons why you have a right to a fair trial, all the cases. And he says, and he goes into this, but he wants an evidentiary hearing, okay? And you're saying, why does he want an evidentiary hearing, okay? And we know that a judge has to be objective, and all this is all background. And the procedural background, we all know that. But here we get to slide number 5, the grounds for the recusal. Okay, prejudgment reflected in a dangerousness finding and other pretrial matters. Well, this is not the wow yet, but what is this about, Amanda? That he's saying that about the what Timothy Bradel is arguing about the fact that there was a dangerous finding by McCarthy Naaman about Kelsey Fitzsimmons.
So McCarthy Naaman is, finding herself that Kelsey is dangerous. She's a threat to, not only society, but to Patrick Noonan, who is this gigantor, man. You see him in that little snip of home surveillance footage from last week, the size difference. So to think Kelsey's on home confinement, she has a GPS monitor, she's not going anywhere, but the judge found that she was a danger. And she might hurt, Patrick Noonan.
And then the other thing, and Bradel brings us to, before we get to the wow, okay, I'm teasing the wow. The court has also gone so far as to explicitly prevent any potentially favorable family court custody or visitation orders prohibiting Ms. Fitzsimmons from seeing the infant child, regardless of any custody determinations of that court. And that's the family court. This is highly unusual, unprecedented, and in the undersigned counsel's experience, a superior court judge would impair the family court in performing its own core function of determining custody and visitation is, in the first instance, just highly unusual, is what he's saying. Okay, the court has gone out of its lane in an effort to keep Ms. Fitzsimmons from her infant. All right, that's pretty unusual, right? You know, he's pointing that out, right? And then, you know, he talks about the recusal, okay, but, and we're going to get to the but, okay. There was something that we did not know, all right, and we knew about the demeanor and all that, okay. And then personal economic facts of the case. Here is the but, and here is the big wow of this motion, and it's at the end. I was like, okay, this is normal. She's going to deny this, and then we find ex parte communications with the probation concerning a pending matter. Now, let me just set this up. Addressing the court, vilified, that is the probation officer, Mr. January, who was very honest that Kelsey hadn't violated the terms of her probation, came into court and was visibly shaking and angry. Counsel was informed by January and his attorney that Judge McCarthy Naaman came to his office unannounced the day prior to the hearing. She sought to investigate the status of Ms. Fitzsimmons' compliance with probation terms and was informed by the probation officer, January, that there was no violation. January recalls that he discussed the fact that he had an email communications with the undersigned counsel, which appeared to upset Judge McCarthy Naaman. When January mentioned that his emails favorable to the defense were likely attached to the motion filed for relief, McCarthy Naaman abruptly left January's office, right? Abruptly left January's office. All right. And then the undersigned counsel, that's Mr. Breda, was informed that following the September 11, 2025 hearing on the emergency motion for relief, McCarthy Naaman filed a complaint against the January, right? He's the second in charge of the probation office. Arising from this case, despite her unclean hands engaging in ex-parte communications in the probation office. So she goes to the probation office. She tries to investigate, and it sounds to me she tries to hint to January, you have to say that there's been a violation of probation. And then when he won't do it, she files a complaint against him and then allows this hearing to go, the first hearing that went up to the Supreme Judicial Court, without telling anybody, keeping it secret. I am just shocked. January's attorney, upon information from the January's attorney, the complaint filed by McCarthy Naaman included accusations of defense counsel colluding with probation. As a result, defense team members are now supporting witnesses for January against the judge and this complaint that stems from this very case. Okay. I'm without words. Okay. I'm without words. You, Amanda?
Yeah, absolutely. You think of her storming, coming into Jeff January's office. She doesn't get the answer that she's looking for. She storms out of his office. This is the day before the September 11th hearing, to the extent that I thought I was reading it wrong, that Jeff January has to have an attorney. He has an attorney.
He has an attorney because she has filed a complaint against him for collusion with the defense counsel when all he was giving her was the information that she hadn't violated, and he stood firm against her in that hearing. If you recall, in that hearing, she says to him, I will decide whether she's violated probation, Mr. January. These are my decisions to make. I'll decide whether she has to take the test 3 times a day. I'll decide that. We didn't know that there was this history. Yes, in limine, she spoke to the probation officer first. She went to investigate the probation officer the day before the hearing, investigate the case the day before the hearing. didn't tell the defense that, and then she files a complaint against January for allegedly colluding with the defense, doesn't tell the defense that, and I would gather that doesn't tell the Supreme Judicial Court that either. I would gather that, okay? That's the case. I don't know how you're feeling.
She says here that defense counsel, which I followed Tim Bradel. I'm not as familiar with Martha Coakley, but she makes the accusation that he didn't offer any medical evidence, that he's trying to manipulate the court.
And what she was trying to do, in my opinion, I think one of you pointed it out, she was trying to get January to agree with her before they went to that hearing so that she wouldn't be up there looking like a horse's ass that she did. All right. And I know as a lawyer, I can't, comment on judges. But as a journalist, which I am on this show, I can comment on judges. Okay. And this is outrageous. This is simply outrageous. All right. So first she finds that Kelsey Fitzsimmons is dangerous. She usurps the authority of the family court by preventing Kelsey from seeing her child. She has an interest in this, they argue earlier. I passed over that, but a personal interest, certainly in this case. She's had ex-parte communications with probation. She has a personal agenda with the probation officer. And obviously, she hates Mr. Bradel in some way, and I use that term generously. These are all questions that Bradel says we need an evidentiary hearing for. Do you think, Amanda, that she's going to get one? That they're going to get one?
I hope so, because I want to hear what they have. Also the fact that there's a question of if the officer is Patrick McCarthy Noonan. That's in there.
That's in there. Yeah. Tell us about that. That's the personal or economic interest. Tell us about that, because I kind of glossed over it.
There's two pieces of that. So one piece of it is that there's a question, and who knows, it was just a quick internet search showed the defense that, Patrick Noonan actually was Patrick McCarthy Noonan, which McCarthy is a common name, so right. Possibly, maybe not. They're not making the accusation. They're asking the question. The second part of it is, the monetary interest, the economic interest is that Kelsey was a North Andover police officer. Patrick Noonan, North Andover. She has an office, or had an office up until 2018, and lives in North Andover. And the likelihood that once Kelsey beats this, because I do believe that she's going to be found not, completely not guilty. This is, absolutely. She's probably going to sue the pants off of North Andover, and rightfully so. And if that is the case, then whose pocket is it going to hit? The North Andover, residents, citizens of that town, whose taxes are going to go up. So she absolutely has an interest. And should have recused herself already. And we'll see that in, as we get along, and in that, the ruling in Ipswich, where the judge lived in Ipswich, same exact situation. And she recused herself. They didn't need to file a motion. They didn't need to draw it out into the open, flush it out. She recused herself because she knew better. And that's what we expect of judges. That's what the public, myself, just a average everyday citizen. I'm not an attorney yet. That's what I would expect, is that if she has an interest in that way, that she would know to recuse herself without having to be asked.
Yeah, just unbelievable that this. And the reason why the defense found out is because January had to get a lawyer, and the lawyers talked to Bradel, because Bradel and Martha Coakley and everybody else now are witnesses in support of January about what happened at the hearing. So the question I have for you here is that, Amanda, well, let's talk about this. If she doesn't recuse herself, because she can say, no, I'm not going to recuse myself, and I'm not granting you an evidentiary hearing. So then this case has to go back up, probably to the Supreme Judicial Court in Massachusetts, who I used to think would always do the right thing, although I don't think they did the right thing in this case, sending this back down to her. They could have sent it back down to some other judge already and avoided this. But Michael Bryant has a saying, robes protecting robes. Do you think under these circumstances that robes will protect Judge McCarthy Naaman?
I just don't think they can, really. You know, I think that maybe if she hadn't filed the complaint, but she's doubling down on this. Uh, it's idiotic in my opinion.
Yeah,
You
yeah, I
know,
do
she
too.
tried to, you know, slip something under the, you know, under the guise of, you know, I don't know how she would explain that she went into Jeff January's office the day before and X party was asking, you know, I don't understand, but to double down on it and file a complaint against him, come on now.
Yeah,
It's
well, quite
ridiculous.
frankly, I think Kelsey and Tim Bradel should file a complaint and against her, a judicial complaint. I mean, quite
Yeah.
frankly, anybody, you know that almost anybody can file, at least in Florida you can, in New Jersey you can, a complaint against a judge for unethical conduct. And this may be the case. This may be the case where you have a judge who doesn't disclose, and then challenges Bradel as doing something wrong. And January, the top probation officer for collusion, suggesting that they did something wrong. I mean, this is an absolute, this is more than a joke. This is really serious. It's outrageous, especially after we saw on Karen Reed. And yet we saw a great judge in the in the Walsh case, in the Bryant Walsh case. Remember, we saw a
Yeah.
great judge there. But this is outrageous. This is anger. This is outrageous. And yes, you could charge a bench with having some type of conflict. We did that in a case recently, and then we got a great judge who said, "No, I don't have a conflict." The other judges may, I don't. And it turned out he was a terrific judge. So I don't think that just because you file a complaint against one judge or a claim against one judge saying that they have a conflict of interest and they acted inappropriately, that other judges will fall back and then hate you for it. You know, look at the tall glass. Remember, Glanville was ready to lock Attorney Steele up after being confronted about his ex parte. Yes, he was. Remember Judge Glanville in the YSL case. You know, the problem is we're seeing all this happen, and these judges don't seem to care whether they're on camera or not. I always thought that cameras were the disinfectant, didn't you, Amanda?
I think so. And that's why, you know, I have made the commitment to be there in the courtroom to watch what this judge is doing and other judges. If I am able to be there, I will be there because we see how she acted when nobody was looking, by revoking her bail. And I think that's what, you know, when you see Kelsey in person at court, she's terrified. She wants to get this over with. She wants her baby back. And when she went to court before and asked for the scram to be modified, you know, to another means, she revoked her bail. So, you know, how would she feel about, you know, filing a complaint against her?
Yeah.
You know, she's terrified. You know, you look at her face and she's terrified.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been there. Look at you and Josie. Now, yes, Amanda, you are going to law school, right?
Yep, that's the plan. I'm finishing up my bachelor's degree now, and then law school will be the next step.
Yeah, and then tell us about, you mentioned Josie. Who's Josie? For those of us who don't know you.
Yeah, so she's my daughter. She's the other side of Law Girls Not Attorneys. She's my 16-year-old daughter. She and I, you know, attend trials, go to hearings, follow the, you know, the justice system. Yeah, and she, like I said, she homeschools. We have a great time together, and just seeing how things should be done, how things should not be done. Meeting great attorneys like you and Michael Bryant, and she was able to meet Alan Jackson, who told her she needs to be a lawyer, which, you know, it has to be, you know, so
that is so great. That is
inspired.
So great. And then she's learning how, I mean, as you can see, Michael Bryan teaches us all about how you set up cameras and how you set up sound systems and how you bring assets into a show, because he's the boss man on that. So we all miss him when he's gone from that. Okay. As you know, he can help. And even that stuff is important to learn, because it doesn't do any good to get there and cover a hearing and then find out you don't have the right. And Massachusetts, it cracks me up, because you have some of these major TV stations come in and they don't know that you have to put a microphone down in front, right? They don't know that you can put a microphone, and Michael Bryant does. He has goes and threads the microphone all the way through and shows people. And sometimes even the court staff, and they say, "Oh, really? Oh, we didn't know that," you know.
Yeah,
So
he knows his stuff. I have to brag about Josie for 1 second here. She picked
please.
up, and I'm looking for it in the motion. I can't find it, but she picked out, she says, and we covered this earlier, this motion. She says, "Look, Mom, it says the judge shall. It doesn't say may, it says shall. So this means she has to," and could have cried. I could have cried, to
And
pick that
shall
up.
what?
And
Shall what? Go ahead, because
oh,
you're that's
now
a
I can't find it. I just
okay.
remember that she said
Yeah,
shall, but
for everybody, if a statute or a regulation says will, may, could, should, it's not mandatory, but a shall in the legislation means you must. You don't have any discretion. Okay.
right.
And so it's a very important word that Josie picked up, probably shall in the terms of a recusal action. But Massachusetts, we even saw today, by the way, that 4 Massachusetts are going to be charged, police officers, they are going to be charged in Enrique Delgado's death also. Massachusetts, we can't get away from Massachusetts because everything seems to be happening in Massachusetts. But if you're going to charge people for crimes, you better have a damn good judge to make sure that justice is fair for both sides, because
right.
everyone's presumed innocent until they're convicted, including Kelsey Fitzsimmons, Judge McCarthy Naaman.
And this is where it is. Page 3, bottom of page 3, it says a judge shall disqualify himself or herself in a proceeding in which the judge's impartiality might reasonably be questioned. Emphasis added. We're emphasizing that. Shall disqualify him or herself.
That's a great pickup. McCarthy Naaman will say, "I'm not prejudiced. I'm not this. I have not made up my mind." That's what she'll say to get out of it. But I think that this filing complaint against January, this charging Bradel with and him with collusion, which means that you had to bug up your tush to begin with, for lack of a better word, for lack of a more, shall we say, I better not go there. As I said, as a journalist, I can criticize a judge. If I'm in a lawyer capacity, I can't. So Bradel and Coakley can't criticize the judge. You and I can. You as a future law student, even me as a journalist here on Justice Serve TV. So anyone else have some great questions for us? Because I see hopefully we've answered all the questions that are coming down into our chat here. There's been a report from Dizzy. She said the update, they're expanding the search following new leads for Mrs. Guthrie. As I said, now the 7 o'clock deadline is over. By tomorrow, when we're on the show, hopefully we can report good news, or maybe it's just going nowhere and all. But whatever, Savannah Guthrie asked us to say a prayer for her mother for the safe return. And yes, no one should have to go through what they're going through. So whatever you do, make sure you tell everybody that you love, how much you love them, because you never know what's going to happen at 3 o'clock in the morning after you leave them, as we saw here. So, Amanda, thank you so much for being with us here. There goes my security dog. Okay. Why? Because he heard a buzzer and he knows that means that there's somebody at this door, and he's going to alert me to the fact that it could be a stranger at the door. And then if it is a stranger at the door who doesn't, I say it's a stranger, and I saw somebody said their dogs are trained in overseas command, a different language. And so is, yes, whenever you train a security dog, their language, their commands are in a different language, so that the person coming can't just say, stop, sit, go away. But you have to hit subscribe, like, share, notify, and give us your website address, your YouTube address and everything, Amanda.
Yeah. So Law Girls Not Attorneys Due Process is the YouTube channel. And everything else is Law Girls Not Attorneys on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And I want to just say thank you. And I cannot even express to you, if I had ever known that I would, be talking with the Linda Kenny Baden on the eve of my birthday, actually
Happy
get to talk
birthday.
to you. I'm just, thank you so much.
All right. Happy birthday. I hope you all join us again tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Again, we're going to do the Guthrie case, the updates, and Andrew Goldman, the Martha Moxley, Michael Skakel, my client case. So usually you can't get to talk to the person who represents somebody. And Amanda, you did a great job tonight. So, but I'm going to have to sign off. I'm going to take, first, let me take this motion off here. Remove it from the stage. All right. I'm going to remove that so that we can be in full screen there. And I'm going to have to say what Michael Bryant would normally say, and that we are Justice Serve TV, and we will see you tomorrow night. But please try to do the right thing.